Recently, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals seemed to suffer a devastating knee injury against the Washington football team. Since the injury, it has now been reported by several sources that Joe Burrow has in fact suffered a torn ACL, MCL, and has had other structural damages within his left knee. This is not very surprising considering the mechanism of injury that he did suffer. If you would like a brief explanation, I will link my prior video explaining it. Recently, however, a much better camera angle has come out, giving us a much better view of the injury when it occurred. By looking at this better camera angle, we can absolutely take a look and see exactly when the injuries did occur in his left knee. Welcome back, sports fans. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Nick Gallo and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. Today, I'm going to go ahead and do a follow-up video to the original that I did regarding Joe Burrow's left knee injury. If you like today's content and you find it interesting and informative, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button because I will be making more videos in the future about sports injuries, rehabilitation, and of course, other physical therapy related content. With today's video, I'm going to discuss this new clip of the Joe Burrow knee injury, which I believe shows the injury much more clearly. Based on this new video, I also want to go over what I potentially think might also be involved in terms of this injury when they say other structural injuries. And finally, I want to go over Joe Burrow's possible timetable to return to sport. First, let's take a look at the new clip.
Here we have a much better camera angle showing that defender falling into Burrow's left knee, causing that valgus force. As the defender falls into his left knee, we see that immediately that tibia bone begins to bulge or stick out. As the play progresses and they start to let up pressure, we see that his tibia snaps immediately back into place into his knee. Because the ACL's function is to prevent that forward movement of the tibia, this is the moment that I believe the ACL was torn. While being placed in this valgus force, the MCL is also under tremendous pressure. Therefore, it's not surprising that the MCL was also torn. It's important to note that the MCL also has fibers that run to the medial meniscus. Therefore, it's also very possible that Joe Burrow does have a medial meniscus injury on top of the other two ligaments torn. It's actually very common for all three structures to be torn at once and is known as the unhappy triad or the terrible triad. In order to have an injury to all three of these structures, a player would need to have their foot planted into the turf and have an extreme valgus force placed on that knee. And this is exactly what we see in this injury. We see that Joe Burrow's left foot is planted into the turf and an extreme valgus force is placed on his knee. Therefore, when they say other structures are involved in the knee, I also believe that it's going to be the medial meniscus as well.
So in summary, this new clip shows us a much better view of Joe Burrow's left knee during the injury, and it also shows us that excess movement of the tibia as he's being hit by the defender. In the new clip, we clearly see that Joe Burrow's tibia translates forward, and towards the end of the play, it seems to pop back into place. The gold standard test to test for a torn ACL is known as the Lockman's test. This test is done when the tester is holding a person's femur still and pulling on that tibia to see how far it's going to move forward. Typically, with a person that has an intact ACL, there will be no movement or hardly any movement at all forward with the tibia. In the new camera angle of the injury, however, we see that his tibia moves forward quite a lot. This new camera angle also shows that the MCL is strained quite a bit because of that excessive valgus force placed on the left knee. Therefore, up to this point, this brand new camera angle really does show, I think, a torn ACL and definitely a torn to severely strained MCL. So it makes perfect sense to me that the MRI would see these as of now. Finally, it's also very possible that Joe Burrow has a torn medial meniscus as well because the MCL does have fibers that run into the medial meniscus. It is fairly common for all three of these structures to be involved at once with an injury like this, and it is actually called the unhappy triad or the terrible triad. A typical mechanism for this type of injury for all three structures to be involved will be an intense valgus force being placed on the knee with the foot planted in the ground, which is exactly what happened in this case. Now for the MCL and probable meniscus tears, surgery is not always indicated, but it really does depend on the severity of the tears. A torn ACL, of course, will sideline him for the remainder of the season and will require surgery to repair it. Typically, athletes can return to sport at about that 9-month mark from surgery. This, of course, if they are following rehab diligently and there are no other complications. Fortunately for Joe Burrow, he is a professional athlete and he is in incredible shape already. Plus, he's going to be receiving state-of-the-art treatment and surgery, so I expect him to make a full recovery. But of course, I do wish Joe Burrow a speedy recovery, and I really look forward to see him playing next season. And that is it regarding the updated camera angle for the Joe Burrow left knee injury. Once again, thank you for watching. If you happen to see any other updates or you want to leave a comment, please do that below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.